Day 43, Bolivian salt flats. We made our way to the vast plains of the salt flats. Huge stretches of salt spread all the way to the horizon and beyond, boggling the mind of perception and size. Mountains filled the edges, silhouettes in the brightness reflecting off the sparkling white.
I really wanted to be able to share some of Oliver's own writing. They are such great writing and so many adventures.
We were fully aware, however, of our priority: to get some banging photos on the salt plains. It was to be a serious matter, with no fun to be had. We forced our guide to take us to the most desolate place he could find. Job done. Now to decide on the photos.
In 1846, I changed my trade from carrying bricks. I changed my trade from carrying bricks to working on the railway. I was wearing corduroy breeches, dodging the hitches, pulling the switches. I was working on the railway.
Very well done.
I think we were so blessed to have him as a son, because he was an absolute joy and delight, and he brought so much happiness to us. And you know, he had this really lovely gurgling laugh, and so many little friends. Even from a very young age, he was so popular and so caring and kind, very loving, a very loving little boy, full of laughter and, you know, excitement at the world. So he was, oh, and also I would say he was like an old soul. So when he was born, it was very magical. It was quite a magical time.
Yeah, I think he picked up on people and what they were feeling, which is quite unusual in a small child. Well, it's quite unusual in adults. And there was one particular occasion when we were in Brighton, and I'd given him some pocket money, and we were walking down past the Brighton Centre, I seem to remember. And in those days there was a little shop not far from there. I thought I'd go in and get some sweets, and then there was this tramp sitting there, you know, asking for money, and we sort of were walking past, and then Oliver looked back and he immediately went over and gave this man his money. Now I'm trying to think how old he was. About 4, I should think, not very old. I thought, oh, that's quite a remarkable thing, really.
And then once I broke my ankle, do you remember? And he was so upset, and he just wanted to mend my ankle. You know, I had an awful...
He was about 6 or 7 then,
yes,
wasn't he?
yeah.
6, I think.
So this huge empathy, huge, you know, awareness of others.
When you're aware of things with other people and you're aware of the world, that can become a burden. And I think that, you know, when he became an adult, when you're a child, you're aware of things, but you think, oh, you know, your parents, they'll sort it out. And then when you become a young adult, you think, oh, it's, you know, it's now down to me. And you see that with young people now, you don't need with their concern about Palestine and so forth. You know, young people have this, I need to do something. And I think he had a great sense of, I need to do something.
Day 49, Bolivia. Maybe I am too harsh on myself. I have a deep-seated desire to do things differently, explore unexplored areas, meet interesting people, perhaps fall in love. But I'm not sure if this stuff has happened yet. These are thoughts which are so unfounded. I deserve a slap.
Now we have this award for the Oliver Hare Altruism Award at UCL, where he went to uni. And it's so fitting. You know, he did a degree in history, got first in history, but the university decided to set up an annual award for altruism to recognise other students who behave with sort of compassion and kindness. And that's really fitting, I think, for Oliver.
Day 2, Chile. Had arranged to meet up with Joe, a local couch surfer. who said he'd take me around Santiago and show me the more interesting bits. As we sat down in the restaurant, a samba band entered and started playing some tunes. The locals got up and danced along, and I caught the eye of a pretty Chilean girl. After a few minutes, she asked me if I wanted to dance, and I cordially accepted. Couldn't believe my fantasy had come true. When we finished dancing, her dad came up to me, introducing me as if offering her up. She was a bit shocked to find out I was 19. She was 29. Such fun times.
Put daffodils in the window, the brightest of the bright, to remind us of your presence, to remind us of your light. Although the years are passing since last we saw your face, your memory sustains us with love, light, and grace.
My son was an absolutely wonderful person. He was just 22 when he took his own life, and just shortly before his 23rd birthday, he had friends all around the world. He was incredibly popular. He'd gone through life enjoying all sorts of achievements, and he'd had a gap year where he travelled around the world. He'd
taught English in China, hadn't he?
Yes, he graduated from UCL 6 months before he died, and he got a first there in history.
You must have, and I'm a parent as well, so I'll trek over. You must have racked your brains thinking, was there something I missed? Was there a sign I should have picked up? And it must have been hell you've been through.
Yeah, it has been, Nick. Thank you for acknowledging that. When he died, he left his journals, a number of them, about 5 or 6, stacked up near to where he died. So, and I felt he was giving that to me, perhaps, well, to all of us. But I think it was here, you know, have these. And for a long time, I didn't read them, and then I did read them. I then worked with friends to transcribe them, basically, read his handwriting, where he was writing in buses, under tents, in bunk beds, you know, all over the place. It was a bit shaky at times. But I managed to transcribe them and then edited them down. And then this will be for the book and for this documentary. I mean, losing Oliver was absolutely devastating, and you wouldn't wish it on anyone. So the grief and the sadness is overwhelming. I mean, it stays with you. The sadness never goes. And I think that on one hand, you know, I hear that saying, and it does resonate with me, because we did have the dark night of the soul in losing Oliver. But I also think that it gave me profound insight about the meaning of life, to put it simply, and also a connection with the divine. I would say it gave me my faith. My spirituality and my faith is central to who I am. It's the most important part of my identity now. And that was given to me by Oliver. I truly believe that. I think that, and that's why I say he's our teacher and our guide. I truly believe that without the loss, the darkness, as Matthew Blake says, I wouldn't have seen that light and been so connected with him still. He's not here physically, but he is in our hearts and in all that we do, really.
Day 22, Machu Picchu. The walk to the top was surprisingly difficult. I remember reaching the top soaking wet, with sweat literally dripping onto my trousers. Despite the whole place being packed with tourists of all shapes and sizes, nationalities and creeds, the site did not lose its mysterious allure and had the wondrous effect of seeming special to you. The group of us lay down on one of the terraces and sunbathed in the sweltering sunshine, with Xavier taking his top off and me taking off my trousers, to the disapproving looks of many an older tourist. Pretty cool thought. To think we slept on Machu Picchu. Felt like such an Inca.
We both reacted differently. And I think anyone watching this video who's going through grief, the loss of someone, not necessarily by suicide, but I think any sudden shocking loss of a person, it's very important that couples understand that they're not the same, and there isn't a right way to grieve. And sometimes when I talk to people about what's happened, and they, you know, they try, and people often don't know what to say, and I can say, well, as you can imagine, it was an awful thing, and people often say, no, I can't imagine, and that is. So for over 2 years, I couldn't really, you know, I've been hit. It's like being hit by a lorry, and you're knocked over, and you're on the side of someone's dragged you to the side of the road, and you can't really work out what's happened. And it took me this is true, for over 2 years, it seemed like the same day to me, literally the same day. Night would come, day would come, the seasons would come, but it seemed like the day he died. And I remember the first day when it seemed like another day. And so what helped me, very, very good friend John Bull, he'd walk out with me, because I couldn't really leave the house without having panic attacks, and we'd just walk together. And sometimes I couldn't go very far, I've got to go back. I remember once we walked from his house to Goring, you know, like a big achievement. So, you know, initially that was a great help. And then friends and family, of course, who were prepared to listen. My mum, my brother, and my cousin were all wonderful, and I couldn't have got through it without them. And then later on, when running is still, whenever I feel low, whenever I feel myself, I just go out and run, and I literally run until the feeling disappears. And the other thing that's been huge has been the singing that I've done, you know, the singing with the Duck Pond Sailors. And when you're singing with other people, you connect with them, and it's a powerful thing, powerful emotional thing, and that's been very important.
Tommy's gone on a whaling ship, away to Hilo. Oh, Tommy's gone on a damn long trip. Tom's gone to Hilo. He never kissed his girl goodbye, away to Hilo. He left her and he told her why. Tom's gone to Hilo.
Our reactions were so different. They couldn't have been more different. I mean, we've been married 35 years now.
It's
just gone like that, hasn't it, in an instant? And yeah, so it's been, so we knew each other very well, but you obviously didn't know each other in these circumstances, in this horrendous grief. And we are very different people, aren't we?
Well, I think you managed, and incredibly, almost straight away managed to channel the grief into positivity. And I don't think there's hardly anyone who could do that. It takes this presence of mind that she has to step into the vortex and put it to good effect,
And I would say that was because of this incredible, overwhelming connection with the other world, the other life, the next life, with Oliver being in the next life. I felt that connection. So as overwhelmed you were with the grief, I was overwhelmed with this sort of incredible light, and there was a huge outpouring of love. I mean, I can't explain how much love there was for us, and so many people helped, and so many friends came round and made meals for us and just looked after us. And so, and on our son Samuel too, we were in this little bubble of grief, but with all these ripples of love, and that was incredibly sustaining. So I think I experienced it quite differently, and I also immediately felt how blessed I was to have Oliver as a son. As Chris says, I'm extremely positive, so it's hardwired into me, isn't it? But I think that this newfound faith as well also was instant. So it was an understanding of how important love is in the world, how important the connections you make are in the world, and also then having this sense of purpose in wanting to save other lives from suicide. And I guess we've had that elasticity to allow each other to be who we are, and that helped us, because I know so many couples don't survive this, because the assumption, I think, is that you've lost the same child, so therefore you must be responding in the same way. But actually, you're so unique in how you respond that you don't go on that same journey at all. I'd be very surprised if you did. I got huge support from all of Oliver's friends. So they were only 22 at the time. I mean, he was 22, nearly 23 when he died. And so there were all these young, men and women that I had known from school days, and others that just came out, the UCL crowd that I hadn't met before, people in the World Traders, that he belonged to the World Traders. There was so much that was new and that was energising, because I felt this need from all these lovely friends of his to do something, hence forming Olly's Future. So we have had very separate paths.
But then we've sort of come together again.
Yeah.
That's the thing, I think. And I don't know, but I can imagine that some couples split up because they haven't got the patience to wait through, and they think it won't improve. But even the worst situation, I mean, we've now, Sam, our other son, our lovely son, has got a partner, Deanna, and they've got 2 lovely children. So we've got these grandchildren. Yeah. Now, when I was in the depths, I couldn't see anything like that. Yeah. And then, so however the awful thing that happens to anybody, there is always hope. Don't ever give up. No. Hope. Right.
Actually, just treasure and value what you have. And yeah, I think we quite like each other, really.
And we're doing all right. Yeah, and the thing, that horrible cliche, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger, which years ago I'd have thought, well, that's a stupid thing to say. But yeah, I think that the bigger the disaster that you survive, then you are a stronger person, because then the smaller things that previously might have really upset you, think, well, that's not important, that doesn't matter.
It really does put it into perspective. Yeah. And I think suffering often gives you that insight. The grief gives you enormous insight. What would have not helped would have been for us to have split up. And then where does that leave Samuel? can you imagine the devastation? He and Oliver were so close. They were such close. They're like chalk and cheese. We always said that, didn't we?
Very different personalities, but very, very into each other.
Very close and very caring and loving.
Day 15, New Zealand skydiving. I sort of found myself signing the document, getting into a jumpsuit and into the plane without feeling terribly excited or nervous. Then it started to become real, climbing up to 5,000 feet, 8,000, 10,000, and then 12,000. The scenery just got better and better. I could see Fox Glacier in full glory, truly magnificent. The door opened and the rushing air whizzed into the area where we were seated. We jumped. Fuck! 5 seconds of heart in my mouth quickly subsided, and I was able to enjoy the freefall. The instructor let me fly the parachute on the way down, which was great. Might have been the best bit. Landed, buzzing.
My best friend Caroline and I, we wanted to go somewhere on a retreat. She'd had a hard time. I was obviously grieving and trying to process everything. And so we thought we'd go on a retreat, and Caroline found this place at Boars Hill, which is south of Oxford, which is a Carmelite priory. There's about 10 monks there. And so we booked ourselves in, and we didn't know what to expect. It was a silent retreat, which was quite a novel experience for both of us, but we did really appreciate it, actually. And we found ourselves having our own personal monk, if you like, your own personal monk, to be able to talk to and share, your feelings and experiences. And so I met Yamai then, and he's become part of my life now.
You came over to the Priory for a few quiet days. You came with your friend. I do remember, and I remember you mentioning that you needed rest and quiet. And I remember I was assigned by the then prior, Father Liam, to accompany you, and everything else just flowed from there. What about that?
We would walk out, so we'd have a contemplation period, and then you'd talk to your monk, and then you'd be able to walk in the grounds or walk nearby. And we found that there was the Matthew Arnold's field. I didn't know about this. We knew he was a poet, but wasn't quite sure what he'd written. And so we went in, and there was a bench, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I sort of returned to this word magical, because I often think there is something supernatural or otherworldly about the experiences that I felt that happened and seemed to happen to me. And this was one of those instances, because I sat down on the bench and looked down, and there was the name Oliver, and carved really clearly. And I took some photographs, and that seemed to be such a clear message to me that I was doing the right thing. I was in the right place. I'd come to a place of safety and of home, really. And here he was. And it's quite unusual. I call him Oliver. Everyone else calls him Olly. And hence the name of the charity, Olly's Future. But for me, he's always Oliver. And to see that there, that was a message, really, a very strong message to me that you need to be on this path. This is your path, and carry on. That first evening, we were introduced to our personal monk, He said to me afterwards, after listening to my story, take the night off. And it resonated so deeply with me. It was such a simple thing. It was allowing me to stop everything, just sit and switch off all your thoughts, all your feelings, just be in the moment.
The summer before Oliver died, so the summer of 2016, we were up on High Down for the solstice, and all the celebrations that happen up there with the Morris dancing and everything. And then we went down to the pub at Angmering, the Spotted Cow, and we started singing, myself, Steve, Johnny and Oliver, the four of us. And then the people in the pub, come into the pub and sing some more songs. And that was really how it started. And there were plans for us to sing in the Brighton Festival in 2017. And of course we lost Oliver in February 2017. And I was in no condition to go singing then whatsoever. So Steve and Johnny approached Graham and Dave, who they both knew, who came in to sing. And then as I improved, I was able to join them. And now we are the five of us sing regularly. And as you say, yes, we've done fundraisers for Olly's future. And it's great that the others are happy to come in and do that. But we started off singing sea shanties, but we sing folk songs, and we even sing a few musical songs. And it's a great connection, and people enjoy it. You know, you go into a pub, you start singing. Some people cover their ears, oh God, but most people just think, oh, this is something a bit different, And no instruments, it's just us, our voices, and connecting with people. Even just a few weeks before Oliver died, I went with him to the Wassail at Taryn on the 5th of January. And the two of us sang in the pub together.
Comrade waiting with the song boys over, so here's good luck to all, and promotion soon and better money. That's the sort of ticket for a soldier. Bang upon the big drum, crash upon the cymbals. The stations we go marching along, boys along. And although on this campaign there's no whiskey or champagne, we'll keep our spirits flowing with a song, boy.
It's a cherished memory, but a very difficult memory. It's one thing I haven't gone back to, the Wassail at Taryn. That is just still, because it was so close to when we lost him, and we knew he was struggling then, and his friend Otis said that he was struggling that day, but when he was singing, he was happy. I think it's important for people to realise that those who are suicidal aren't, as you might imagine. I would always thought someone who's suicidal has had years of depression and misery, and there are people like that, but with the work that Anne's done, she's come across many young men so similar to Oliver, where you would have said that's the last thing you would imagine to happen. That everyone needs a moment to say things are a bit shitty now, and never be afraid to ask them how they're really feeling.
I'm Rose, and I never met Olly, but I feel like I know him through getting to know Anne and Chris and so many of Olly's friends. I met Anne the year after Olly took his own life. She wanted to create a training program that gave others the tools that she wishes she'd had. And together we wrote TAS 10, talking about suicide 10 tools. It's one of the most accessible training programs available, and it does exactly that. It gives people 10 tools and the confidence to start and have a potentially life-saving conversation with somebody they're worried about.
My name is Otis, and I'm going to be delivering this training with you. The training is called Talking About Suicide 10 Tools, and it's a training that's been put together to give you the key facts and tools needed in order to start and have a conversation with somebody around their thoughts of suicide. Now, I want to do one quick but important shout out to Olly himself. So Olly's future is one of the the big charities pushing this work. But that's all because of Olly. And we wouldn't be in this room together on this training if it wasn't for Olly. I also wouldn't be here as a trainer because he was one of my closest friends. So this is the reason why I'm now doing this work. And he is the complete drive behind everything we do with Olly's Future and suicide prevention. So a big shout out to him.
It's probably the thing I'm proudest of that I've done in my life. Over 5,000 people now have had our training. It's on the curriculum at a number of UK medical schools, because we know that a conversation can save a life. And now, in Olly's name, as part of Olly's legacy, so many life-saving conversations are taking place.
The work that we're doing is around suicide prevention, and there's over 6,500 deaths a year in the UK to suicide, and a huge amount of those are young people. So 3/4 of all suicides are by men. And the work we do really is to raise awareness of that, but actually also equip people with the skills which I wish I'd had. I didn't even consider that Oliver might have been suicidal or thinking of suicide. You know, he hadn't had a history of mental illness. There was no file on him with antidepressants or, therapy.
Day 17, Peru. I know I've got lots of friends and people who care about me, so I've no reason to worry on that front. Jealous of friends from home having a good time? No, they're almost certainly jealous of me. We all have our problems. I need to learn how to deal with mine. Definitely a maturing process and a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
He had an amazing life, a very happy life, but things turned. And I do believe it was a sort of alignment of events, actual events, that's all, that didn't go well and that made him question and doubt what he was doing in his life. A deep thinker, so someone that, would think deeply about had he made the right decisions. He was working in China for the British Council. He'd been put in a school on his own and he felt isolated. He was someone that had been in London who had a very busy life in a district of Shanghai. Thankfully, he was with the most amazing group of people, and I've only recently been out there to Shanghai to see where he was. But it was an experience that really didn't work well for him. It meant he was doubting himself, and then when he came home, he really didn't get the support because I guess people weren't suspecting that he might be thinking of suicide. Then he went to the doctors because he was feeling depressed, and we said, well, go and talk to the doctor. And they thought it might be his thyroid, so he had a blood test for that, and that proved negative. There wasn't anything wrong with his thyroid, but he didn't pick up at all. And when I talk about an alignment, I do feel there was a greater power at work. It felt like this was not something that we had any control of, because his birthday was on the 16th of February. That was the day he was due to go back to Shanghai. But he wasn't feeling right about it. And then, of course, 14th being Valentine's Day, that was the day he took his own life. So these sort of alignment of dates, but also he started taking citalopram. So he wasn't seen by a doctor. He had the thyroid test. He then rang up, spoke to another doctor who prescribed him citalopram over the phone. And that meant that doctor hadn't spoken to him, hadn't seen his body language, hadn't realised perhaps how, the actual situation of how bad Oliver was, and told him to pick up the medication in the in-house pharmacy, which he did. And he took that for 4 days, and that 4th day was the 14th of February. So I believe that the alignment of dates, I think also the fact that that was the most crucial period when you are heightened, your anxiety is heightened even more, taking these antidepressants had the effect that he took his own life. And so that's my honest belief. And so for that reason, I campaigned to change the NICE guidelines. So now anyone under 25 should be seen by a doctor face to face if they're going to be prescribed an antidepressant for the first time. This is the first time Oliver had ever been prescribed this, so he should have been seen. So that is now a NICE guideline. And the other thing is that I do believe that, as Chris says, you know, these
and be warned.
And be warned about
the possible side effects.
And so I really believe that, you know, doctors should warn people, these young people in particular, about the side effects. We had no idea. Oliver had no idea. So I do feel like this alignment, this very tragic alignment, has led us to losing Oliver. And I'm going to be campaigning more on that, you can bet.
Day 32, Bolivian jungle. With cowboy hat in hand, we set off into the heart of the jungle. We knew that no one else would be doing anything like this. How many people can say they took a 5-day hike into the Amazon rainforest with only a small non-English speaking Bolivian guide and his wife for company? It was pretty cool setting up camp in the middle of the jungle. Watching Mario work was quite something. So quickly and diligently he found the right sticks, vines and leaves to make our shelter. And within 40 minutes we had a secure tent, a fireplace and 3 individual sleeping areas for the 3 of us. That night we all sat around the fire chatting. Really nice, small, peaceful group. Mario showed us 2 ghostly red eyes up in the trees above the camp. Curious, pensive eyes, waiting to drop down at night to feast on the blood of gringos. Managed to get a really good night's sleep. We packed away everything and set off, fully loaded with all the gear to our next campsite. We saw lots of cool things on the way, including deadly spiders, which Mario let crawl all over his face, a herd of pigs, which came within 3 meters of us, and a poisonous snake. The jungle does strange things to your head, and we were all feeling the effects of vivid dreaming. Went across bogs, marshes, mud, and through heavy vines, poo, all sorts of things, before getting back drenched in sweat, mud, and satisfaction.
I think one of the things we both loved about Oliver was that he was such a great friend to so many people. I mean, there were about 700 people at his funeral.
Olly was one of my dearest friends, and he was someone who was just so kind to every single person that he met. And even though he's no longer here, everything that he taught me still lives on in the way that I carry myself, in terms of like how I choose to live my life.
Yeah, Olly was great, loads of fun. We sung together in his dad's sea shanty choir, his mum's community play, just giggling at the back.
He was just one of the most amazing people. He brought positivity and energy to every situation. He was always the one getting people together. He just had this amazing passion for life and adventure.
Olly was a natural performer, and his stage presence shone through when he was cast as a compere in our main show of the year, which took place at the Adelphi Theatre in London. And although Olly was a multi-talented individual, what stood out for me was his humility and kindness.
A really special time with Olly was when we went on a trip to China together. We were part of a Study China programme. So we spent a few weeks in the summer in Shanghai. We met amazing friends, and Olly truly was at the centre of that.
So I first met Olly when we were 11. He was this very cool blonde dude that had this kind of surfer skater vibe about him at the time. Very good at French, very sporty, very funny. Despite all those things, he still embraced me as his friend.
even going onto the street in Camden, and we just started rapping over a busker who had a drum, and then all of a sudden loads of people were around and other people started rapping, and yeah, it's those moments that really I hold in my heart and when I think of Olly.
He was actually one of the smartest people I'd ever met as well, even to this day. I knew that I could talk to him about the deepest of things without any judgment. He was just so accepting and loving towards everyone that he met.
And I just remember him as always being, you know, very fun-loving, but also loves, you know, expanding himself and being curious about the world and meeting new people. But he didn't take himself too seriously, which meant that he was always, you know, a joy to be around.
Everyone who knew Olly knows that people gravitated towards him. You knew that time spent with Olly would be time well spent. He would make you cry with laughter, and he'd take care of you. And it was just wonderful. I feel so lucky that we had that time together.
We became very, very close as friends, and 6 months that we lived together and the couple of years that we spent together in Jarding. And from that we called ourselves the Jarding Leo, and that in Chinese means the Jarding 6. And actually we all decided to get in memory of Olly, we decided to get a tattoo. And the tattoo reads Jarding Leo, Jarding 6, as a memento in memory of Olly.
There was one particular story of when he met a Chinese policeman in that
mall, and they hit it off straight away. I mean, who did love Olly, to be honest? So they hit it off really, really well. They had a crazy night out together, probably quite a few beer towers, and it ended up on with the policeman coming to stay at Olly's house on his sofa that evening. And
we got locked out of our flat, I remember, and so we couldn't get in because someone else was staying there. And we went round to Zach and Olly's house, and to stay at theirs, to find the policeman there on the sofa.
I think of Olly so much, and I miss him so much. But I know that his beautiful, caring soul truly lives on through the amazing work that Olly's Future are doing.
Anne and I have set up an altruism award at UCL in Olly's memory, and that award recognises students who have gone above and beyond in terms of doing good for others, being selfless in their endeavours, and in that way, that is also another way that Olly's legacy continues through that award.
I do think about him every day, and I really miss him a lot, but there's so much solace and comfort in knowing that his name and his legacy in Olly's Future continues to help others as he did, and that's just an amazing thing.
I always say it's a legacy of hope that we've created through Olly's Future.
Well, at the moment we're in Pune, which is a little bit outside of Mumbai, and we're here for our first meeting
with Outlive Project and the Centre for Law and Mental Health here in India. They run a really cool initiative that's about reducing suicide in young people, and it engages with young people in lots of different ways through training, advocacy, and they have this cool chat helpline as well that they've set up, super impressive. So it's really nice that with the help of the Churchill Fellowship we get to spread the word about Olly's Future, but also learn about really cool initiatives that can inspire us to continue to do good work in the UK. So we've reached the end of our trip. We're here in Varanasi now, which is one of the oldest places and most spiritual places in India. We've been travelling around India as part of a project with the Churchill Fellowship, meeting lots of organisations that work in mental health and suicide prevention, and it's been really enlightening. We've got to talk lots about Olly's Future, but also, more importantly, talk about Olly lots on the trip, and remembering him and remembering the amazing times we've had. So it feels quite fitting to be ending here in a really spiritual place, and it's kind of a place which signifies like the kind of movement from like this world on moving from this world into the next or into the next life in Hindu culture. So yeah, it's quite an amazing place.
And we're really just like feeling India in Varanasi, and it's been an amazing trip.
The extracts from his journals, I think, will show people, what a thoughtful and insightful young man he was, and what a tragedy it is to have lost him. But then, as Anne says, all the things that have flowed, Olly's future, the fundraising, the awareness, the connections with other people. So I hope people watching this video have a sense of Oliver, of course, but also hope. I think hope comes out of it. Whatever situation you're in, that hope is always there, but you have to know how to find it.
It means a great deal to me making this documentary because it really is Oliver's story. I want people to know him more, to celebrate him as the most wonderful person he was. The amount of people whose lives he touched, the amount he did, it sustains us actually. Even though it's a short time he gave us on earth here with us, it will sustain us because of the person he was, the fantastic person he was.
L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extraordinary. E is even more than